Hey, everybody. I am thrilled to be chatting here today with you about virtual stage presence and giving you some tips and tricks to master that skill. So let's dive in. So, why is virtual stage presence so important? Now, when we're thinking and talking about stage presence, it's really critical because in today's world, we're connecting so much more over the screen. And these tips and tricks are going to give you the tools and techniques to be your best and to share your ideas and convince other people of it. So, let's dive in. So, I'm going to be walking you through 5 tips to ace your virtual stage presence. The first is posture, the second is eye contact, the third being pacing, fourth, inflection, and then we're going to wrap it up with the idea of practice. So, let's dive into number 1. Now, posture. Posture is so important. When I teach stage presence in person, I tell people think about how you're sitting right now. Are you sitting? Are you slumping? Are you sitting up straight? Because really, it's important to remember the story that you're sharing with your body is my first impression of you. And that is true if you're delivering virtual presentations as well. So, what I'd ask you to do is be thoughtful about how your posture is. Really open your chest, sit up straight, and really be that confident piece. Because remember, when I see you, even through a screen, I'm making a judgment about you and about what your body is telling me. So, make sure you're telling a really good story. And when you're delivering a pitch, especially over a virtual format, it's really important to make a decision if you're going to sit or stand. That's why I chose this picture here. It's a really interesting guy who's kind of half standing, half sitting, not sure what he wants to do. So when you're going into a situation where you're pitching virtually, make sure you practice and prep and make a decision if you feel you're best sitting to deliver this or if you'd rather stand. So commit to that choice, and it really helps go a long way. Now, number 2, eye contact matters. So again, if we were in person, I'd tell you make eye contact with your attendees and those in the audience. When we're on a virtual screen, eye contact still matters, but it's a little bit different. So what eye contact means in this sense is you're delivering something to your camera. So rather than delivering it straight to a person, you really need to look at your camera on your laptop and deliver it there. And that really provides the audience members to feel like they're looking directly at you. So don't be looking at your box of how you're looking or talking. It's really useful to hide that and deliver straight into that little camera on your computer. Now, our next step is pacing and inflection. So these are some best practices that you can use. Now, it's interesting to note a conversational pace tends to be between 140 and 170 words per minute. So, what does that mean? If you're someone who needs and writes out a script, you can really time yourself and say, oh my gosh, am I trying to fit too many words into 1 minute or into a 3-minute pitch? But it's really useful when you think about how do you use that pacing to tell your story? So, if you purposely slow down, if you build in a pause, you're building in a bit of emphasis. You're adding a bit of changes to that pace, which draws your audience in. And if you want to drive urgency, you can purposely pick up a bit. Drive that pace, get excited, and share that urgency and passion with your audience. So, pacing, when you think about it, it's purposely slowing down, purposely hurrying up, but also finding that great pace so your audience can pay attention. Because remember, especially in a virtual world, we have a lot of things that can distract us. So when you're delivering a presentation to your audience, make sure you're thoughtful about your pacing and make sure you make it a pace that people can follow, that they don't have to be worried about catching up with, but also using those moments of pause to bring you to focus. Now, next is what we really can think about is your minutes allotted for your pitch. Multiply that by 170, and that gives you your word count of your presentation. So this is something fun to do if you have time after you prep your pitch, after you've timed everything out. See if you are within that word count that you should be within. Now, that's something really exciting and interesting and different to do. So that's a mindful moment just to think about for yourself. If you want an activity to see if you're fitting too much in, to do a little bit of that math there. Now, Let's talk about inflection. So, being purposeful with your inflection is really useful and brings you to that next level as a presenter. So, we have pacing and now we have our inflection. So, what is inflection? So, I have these sentences on the screen. So, I'm going to read them a little bit different with inflection. Now, the first one, this is a critical step. And I'm going to jump down to the third one here. This is a critical step, or this is a critical step. You can see where my focus changes a little bit. So if I'm emphasizing this or critical or step, what you get from the sentence sometimes changes. Where I want you to focus sometimes changes. So when you're mapping out your pitch, where do you want your inflection to really take it to the next level? Where do you want to put the emphasis on certain words? Where do you want to say this? Or where do you want to say critical? Like what words do you want to hit? That helps the audience to know where I should pay attention and helps the audience to understand, okay, this is important. They really emphasize this not only with their pacing, but with their inflection and their words. So it's just a little bit of subconscious effects that you can do for your audience to help them understand your story and your idea a little bit better. And finally, practice makes perfect. So people ask me a lot, how can I get rid of my ums or ands or buts and all those different little ticks we all have as we present? I encourage you to be a better presenter, to really practice. And what do I mean by practice? Record yourself. So watch yourself as you're recording. You can also ask someone to sit in on your virtual presentation while you're doing it and ask them to take notes. So a really trusted friend and say, okay, what did I do here that you didn't understand? What did I do here that maybe lost you? So get that feedback early on. And sometimes the best feedback is by watching yourself, even though it can be a little bit uncomfortable. So those are our 5 tips when we talk about practicing. And make sure you jump in, dive in, and get going. Thanks so much for joining today, and talk soon. Go master your virtual stage presence.